Thank you for joining us again and welcome back to our channel. If you are joining for the first time, I appreciate your time as always. Here we talk one thing, just geostrategic engagement on how Africa engage its partners from around the world. It is important to know that the world has changed and Africa must change as well. The continent must make decisions that favors its own particular interests. Like the United States of America's current Secretary of State once said that the United States will make decisions that favors the US's own interest, and Africa must go closer to partners that provide the alternative, whether it's in security, it's in trade, in technology, in collaboration, in soft power, in agriculture, whatever it takes for the continent of Africa to wake up from sleep. More importantly, the unipolar order at the moment is on life support. Some geostrategic partners have refused to recognize that the world is moving so fast, and at this moment, they cannot make those decisions and, more importantly, go ahead alone and make some impact that does not have repercussion. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because the global North partners, like the United States of America's own perspective with regards to global strategic relationship, has come to the point where the United States of America's own tariff has exposed how some fundamentals does not sit well, and African nations must continue to evolve and look for partners that provide them the alternative at this very important time in their own history.
Essentially, we are undergoing a tremendous change, unprecedented in human history, in the, say, past hundreds of years at least. In many ways, it's moving from a unipolarity to multipolarity. If you look at the total size of the economy of Brics, 11 members, it's already much larger than G7. Internal purchasing power parity, roughly 40% GDP vis-a-vis 33%.
Why is this relevant? It is relevant because the country of Ghana has decided that it wants to move forward and engage partners that provide the alternative. Kenya, the darling of the United States of America, has come to the point where it has made a decision that it will be going alongside partners that provide the alternative. Egypt is saying that I want to break the mold and work alongside others. More importantly, the backyard of France, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have cut off ties, not just militarily, they are going it alone, and they have severed relationship from the colonial organization called ECOWAS that does not provide the alternative. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because China offers the alternative, and as we will hear in a video in a moment, the country of China does come. Is China 100%? Not at all. But it provides the continent of Africa not just alternative, but more importantly, a voice on how to diversify its economy and provide the critical market that African nations need at this time. Despite that, the African continental free trade has been placed on life support at the moment. No one is talking about it, but if you want to look at global market, and China is providing that alternative that the countries across the region are looking for. This does not sit well with regards to the United States of America and some global North partners, more importantly, alongside the G7. It is important that in a recent interview that a Chinese expert in South Africa came out clear and sent a strong message to the reason why where China stands at the moment is fundamentally different from the other international partners. Let's play this clip.
Because the world is actually facing what is currently unprecedented era of complexity. You think on one side we have rapid technological change, you then also have global economic shifts. There's even the ability of nations to try and adapt and respond, which, if anything, is more critical than ever because there's so much ever changing. Today we're going to explore just how governments can build those agile and effective institutions and navigate this complex landscape. We're joined in studio by Professor and Director of the China Institute at Fudan University. That's Professor Zhang Weiwei. Professor Zhang, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us. You've been in South Africa 3 days.
Yes.
Fantastic. Professor, let's just start with talking about the complexity of the world we live in right now and how you see it, especially the role different countries are playing, yourselves, China, the United States and the global sphere, Europe, and how South Africa can play in that, if you will.
Essentially, we are undergoing a tremendous change, unprecedented in human history in the, say, past hundreds of years at least. In many ways, it's moving from a unipolarity to multipolarity. If you look at the total size of the economy of Brics, 11 members, it's already much larger than G7. Internal purchasing power parity, roughly 40% GDP vis-a-vis 33%. But what we haven't established is a multipolar world order. Multipolar world is there, but the order is still to be born. I think hopefully with the effort of South Africa, China, Russia, India, and more from the global south, we can try to shape a better, fairer, and more development-friendly world order.
So this narrative that countries cannot make their own individual choices at this critical time in their own history to survive the global economy and the huge pressure that they are facing from the emerging middle class in Africa's own case, a burgeoning population, more importantly, graduates coming out from the university, and African countries are afraid to make choices that are fundamental to their own survival. And as a result of their strategic relationship that they have, they are going to pay the price. I think it makes it clear where the decision stands and why the United States of America's administration at the moment has made it so simple and easy for African nations to see the alternatives and, more importantly, go it alone, and whatever it takes and what the consequences will be. These countries do not care at this time because the strategic partners have failed to look at Africa's own particular position where it sits, looking at the burgeoning population that I've pointed out. So the notion that countries can no longer speak freely and make their own choices is fundamentally wrong in this day and age. Let's play this clip.
But how do we do that without making the old world order, if we want to call it that, angry or disappointed or wanting to fight back? Because that feels like that's what's happening right now. As you try to find a different way, that old world order fights back.
In a way, it is true. Yet we have to see very clearly which kind of world represents the future. Most countries, most people in the world prefer a fairer and development and more inclusive world and world order. And it is something at least China is advocating and practicing. If you look at China's promotion of this Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, it's already $1 trillion invested and over 4,000 projects, 150 countries involved. So it's already huge and influential. Furthermore, China is now the largest trading partner for over 140 countries. So I said, United States want to withdraw from globalizing. China said, we can continue to promote our globalization, new style, based on what we call building together, discussing together, and benefiting together.
And I have two questions with regards to that then, because one, it feels as though the perception or the idea of globalization has changed completely.
You're right.
Is it still the same as it was when, for example, Bill Clinton came up with the idea back in the early 90s to speak about China needing to be the economic hub of the world and changing the way we did things? Have we changed completely from that now? And are we fighting what is an old industry and trying to make it different now?
Now, the point is more and more you see fundamentals began to change. I remember the former EU senior diplomat, Borrelli, High Representative, he said not long ago, today, economically, technologically, militarily, ideologically, Global South has all alternatives to the Western institutions, whatever. So this is important. For instance, if economically, Global South is bigger, and China is already a much bigger economy than the United States, if you look at purchasing power parity, since 2014. So over more than roughly a decade. China is a large economy. And also in purchasing power parity, China is a larger market. I saw US impose 30% tariff on South Africa. So sell this to China.
I say some African countries are afraid to make choices that are relevant to the survival of their own people, whether it's in security, whether it is in trade, or more importantly in research or seeking for technology. You cannot wait. You have to break the mold. You have to end the status quo, because at the moment, it's not in your own favor. You must come together and ensure that you go closer to organizations that provide you the particular alternative and cut off from those institutions, whether it is the multilateral institutions that do not provide you the particular capacity that you are looking for.
And I watched the parade. I watched the soldiers marching in front of us during the parade. I saw the equipment, including the tanks that from the times of World War II, and I saw the modern equipment, and we would like to see the cooperation between our countries developing rapidly, developing swiftly, and acquire new shapes and forms. We thank you for your attitude towards Burkina Faso. Today I visited Mental Health Institute, and we understand that apart from defense and security, there is another essential field, which is science and education, and we would like to see Russia assisting us in training and educating our youth to help us to develop our own industries, our own enterprises. Machinery, other types of manufacturing, because it's very important for Africa.
If you sit in one place, hoping that you will solve the problems overnight and hearing about sweet talking coming from a number of capitals from around the world, then you do not understand the challenges that you are sitting on top. Once those challenges explode, the same geopolitical partners will laugh at you, and more importantly, when you come begging for finances, they will put you under strict conditions, as we've seen countries across the continent of Africa who have gone through an incredible situation where they are using a woeful lot of their own particular funds that they generate to pay foreign institutional debts that has nothing to do in terms of their own growth, where a number of these funds or this huge amount of this money should have been going to infrastructural development, healthcare coordination, expansion of research, investing in agriculture, expanding the economy, creation of jobs, but you are using this money to pay for debt and loans to the same multilateral institutions that were formed before a number of countries in the continent of Africa even became independent or existent. So this notion that African countries should be stuck in one place and cannot break away from this colonial perspective is fundamentally wrong. Let's play this clip.
Also, it's fully understandable, but how do you balance, and maybe you can give us an example from China here. How does China then balance its strategic interests in Africa, right, which are very critical and important for it? Access to resource, political influence, which may be there, market expansion, with its own local development goals. Because the question becomes, if you're looking elsewhere, are you done fixing yourselves as a country?
China, Africa have enjoyed actually very good relations for decades. Our support for the struggle against apartheid, really, for the decolonization, for the national liberation movement since 1960s. So this friendship was already there. Now, with globalization, China is economic powerhouse and driving many developments, even in Africa. I said, if you look at what China has done for Africa, we're trying to build regional transportation networks, air, transport, harbors, highways. This is totally different from the old imperialist colonialist approach, which is based on, if you look at the situation then, you know, you want to fly from West Africa, from Ghana to East Africa to Kenya, you have to go via London. But China said, let's do something together, based on principle of discussing together, building together, benefiting together. And it's working. It's also good for China, because now China is arguably the leader in, say, EVs, and 70% of the world's product. And this kind of raw materials from lithium, battery, etc., many of these materials come from Africa. So it's China Biden for China's own benefit, but for world market.
The odds are against you, the continent of Africa. At this moment, if you look at the perspective, whether it's from the Russian-Ukrainian war, looking at the pandemic, looking at a whole lot of coordination from the United Nations, considering the challenges that you are going through at the moment, considering that the African continent at this particular time has its own issues, whether it's the war in Sudan, or more importantly, the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda, and also existing conflicts across the continent of Africa. The Europeans are not coming to save you. The Americans are not coming anytime soon to save your own situation. The Chinese are bogged down with a whole lot of other commitment, but they are still engaging. The continent of Africa must go closer to partners. The Russians at the moment are also bogged down security-wise in a whole lot of other areas. Again, you also have to continue to be your own capacity, and to an extent, go against the rules that you feel that should benefit your own people, because at the moment, what's happening is that you are sitting on the sideline and observing what's going on, because by the time your citizens and nationals will start speaking up and asking questions, and if you cannot deliver, the consequences could be dire in terms of a national building and relationship coordination. It is important for African nations at this particular time to understand that the multipolar world is here to stay, and they should be moving very closely to countries that can provide them that particular alternative. Again, it goes back to say that it's only trade, bilateral coordination, a win-win partnership that can remove the continent of Africa from the situation that it is today. Let's play this clip.
Yeah.
So how do you make sure then you convince people, whether it be across Africa or even the rest of the world, that China's Africa strategy is actually part of a shall we say, a rooted and shared interest in the global South, as opposed to just fighting off the West? Because that can be what some people see, right? That you're only doing this so that you can be better than the West.
Yeah. Obviously, it's very different. The example I gave just now explains a lot. We try to build a regional network. The philosophy of China is not divide and rule. It's just opposite. It's unite and prosper. The more Africa united, the better for Africa, for China, for the world. So we help build this headquarters of the African Union, and we promote African unity, regional integration. For one thing, given the size of the market with all the small countries, in this age of the internet, it's not that favorable for economic development. The larger the market is, we also encourage Africa to be a kind of civilizational community. That will have more common identity. I call China a civilizational state. It's an amalgamation of hundreds of states into one of its long history. So this experience we can share together.
Let me know in the comment section what you think regards to this particular situation as the reason why China, to an extent, is providing some alternative, and why Africa should not listen to countries that do not provide them the alternative, whether it's in Kenya, whether it is in Uganda, whether it is in a whole lot of countries, including Egypt, South Africa, and a lot. We've seen South Africa come under incredible pressure time and time again because it wants to diversify its resources and options out there. Wake up, Africa. This is the moment for you to continue to tell your geopolitical partners that the stakes are high, that if you do not do something, this will come following you behind. I will be looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Have a good day. Bye-bye.